And of course, we need the import here. Okay, so it's the same thing. You set this photographer in our map view controller, and instead of showing the photos by that photographer in a table, it's going to put them in a map view. So let's go back to our storyboard and build the UI for this thing. And so let's make a lot more space here and go like this. Get our assistant editor up here. Let's go to automatic mode. Go here. So here is the code for our map photos by photographer map view controller. We don't need any of this business. Clear that out. We're going to need a map view. So let's go ahead and grab a map view. That is just a view like text view or any other view. Here it is right here, a map view. So I'm going to drag that out, put this in here. Maybe I want to do its constraints, so I'll reset to suggested constraints. Let's go take a look at those, make sure it did something sensible. Oh, yeah, it looks very sensible. So it's going to stick to the size. So whatever size our self.view is, it's going to stick to it. Let's create an outlet for this map view. So I'm just control dragging. I'll call it map view. Right? So we got an outlet there. Notice that we have this error and warning here. Okay, what's the problem? The problem is we have to import mkmapview. So let's do that. Import mapkit/mapkit. Now I told you that mapkit, it's not enough just to import mapkit like it is with everything else we've done so far. We have to go to our project settings over here at the top. And in our project settings, along the top, you're going to see this thing here called build phases. And the build phases specifies what frameworks we link with. Link binary with libraries, okay? So don't forget this part, or when you run your app, it's going to say, oh, no such class, mkmapview. All right, so we're just going to hit plus. Now when you do that, you're going to see that iOS 7 has a lot of libraries and frameworks that you can pick from here. And luckily, it lets you search them. So I'm just going to type map, and here I get mapkit. So now I've included mapkit. I'm linking it in with my application, so it'll work. Okay? All right, so we've got this map view. One thing I want to do right off the bat is set myself to be this map view's delegate, okay, because I'm going to use all those map view delegate methods we talked about in the slides. So I have this here. So this is the setter for map view, and I'm just saying underbar map view was map view, and here I'm setting the map view's delegate to be myself. Of course, it's warning me because I have to implement mkmapview delegate, so I will do that, mkmapview delegate. And now the warning goes away because there are no required methods in the mkmapview delegate protocol. All of them are optional. Okay? Now, one other thing that I probably want to do here is what I always want to do when I have a public API that kind of sets my model, which is to do things like self.title equals the photographer's name. Okay, that's a nice thing. And I also here, every time I set that photographer, I kind of need to reset the photos by photographer, right? Because the whole point here is that I show the photos by photographer. If you change the photographer, I need to change those photos. So to do the photos by photographer thing, I am going to create a new property, okay, called photos by photographer. So let's add that, property, non-atomic strong. It's just going to be an NS array. NS array star photos by photographer. Okay, and this is going to be of photo objects. So let's go ahead and import photo here too. You know we're going to need that. Okay, and here's the getter for photos by photographer. Very, very simple, right? It's the getter. So I'm just saying if the photos by photographer is not set yet, then I'm going to go fetch them from the database. So I create a fetch request. It's for photos. I create a predicate. Who took equals self.photographer. And here, where in the table view I set the fetch results controller, here I'm actually going to execute the fetch request in the context. And that returns an array, which is this array that I'm going to store right here. And then we return it. Now, every time we set the photographer, I better reset this thing to nil. Okay, it's going to lazily do this fetch whenever someone actually wants it, but I better set it to nil every time the photographer changes, otherwise it's not going to do this lazy instantiation. But this lazy instantiation is nice because this is core data fetch, but it still work. I don't want to do this work until someone actually wants those photos by the photographer mechanism. All right, so the other thing we need to do is when our map view is set or when our model is set, we need to update the annotations. Okay, we've got all those annotations on the map that are going to be the photos by a photographer. So we've got to update those. So we're going to have a method here called update, what do I call it, map view annotations. And we're going to have to call this both from here when we set the map view and also from here when we set our model. Because we don't know what order this is going to happen. We don't know if our model is set before our map view or if our map view is set before our model. Either way, this update map view annotations better do the right thing. Okay? So that's why we're both calling it from both. So how are we going to implement this update map view annotations? Well, I told you what we're going to do. We're going to make the photo object be an MK annotation so that all we need to do update map view annotations is add the photos to the map. Okay, so how are we going to turn photo into an ID MK annotation? And the answer is twofold. There's two things we need to do. One thing, we need to fix our model, or our core data database, to have the latitude and longitude. Otherwise, if we don't know where the photo is, we obviously can't show it on there, right? So I'm going to add latitude. Luckily, Flickr provides this information. Longitude. And while I'm here, I'm also going to add thumbnail URL, and I'll show you what we can do with that in a moment too. So thumbnail URL is a string. It's actually URL, but string's the best we can do. Whereas the latitude and longitude are doubles. Okay, double precision floating point numbers. Okay, so I'm just adding this to my database. I'm going to go up here and create my managed object subclasses for Photomania. I only changed photo, so let's just only regenerate photo. We'll put this same place as all we usually do. It's asking if I want to replace the other ones. Of course I do. And now our photo has a latitude and longitude. Okay? Notice these are NS numbers here because everything in the database is an object. Of course, we need to update Flickr's loader, our photo plus Flickr category, right, which does the loading of all this stuff, to load up the latitude. Here I have things for that. So here's the latitude being loaded up. Here's the longitude. It's just looking in the Floto dictionary for the latitude and longitude. I actually take the double value and then turn it into an NS number just in case this is a string, okay? Because strings implement double value too. Well, they'll interpret themselves as a double value. So I'm just going to be double safe. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to get back from Flickr, whether it's a string or a number in the JSON. So I'm just being safe there. And then here, the thumbnail URL, I'm just grabbing the Flickr photo format square, which is what you're using for your thumbnail also in your homework. Okay? So now we've got our data model being loaded up with photos from Flickr that have enough information. Now we need to make photo be an MK annotation. And to do that, I'm going to add another category. Okay? I could put it in that Flickr category, but it's not really a Flickr thing that it implements MK annotation. So I'm going to create a new category called the annotation category on photo. Okay? We'll put that, it's still part of our model. Here's the annotation interface, okay, and this is empty. So what am I going to do here? Actually, all I'm going to do is say photo is an MK annotation. Okay, and I'll have to import MapKit here. Okay, so I've said that photo is an annotation. Now I can put photos in that map view. Okay, but if I look at the implementation over here, you're going to see that there's a warning. What do you think this warning is? Nobody know what this warning is? Surely, yes. Yes, missing methods, because I said here that I implement the MK annotation protocol, but I don't implement that coordinate thing. So if I click on this, it says property coordinate. It has to be defined. Okay, so let's implement coordinate here. It's really easy to do. We just have to return a CL location coordinate, and I'm going to get it by just getting my latitude and longitude as double values. Okay, remember these are NS numbers, these are doubles. Okay, so now I don't have that warning. Now a photo is an ID angle bracket MK annotation. And now I can just put a photo into a map view as an MK annotation. So let's go back and do that. Here's my map view. Here's the update map view annotations. First, I'm going to remove all of our existing annotations. See, so I'm just removing all the annotations that are currently in the map view. And then I'm going to add annotations. self.photos by photographer. And these are photo stars, but they're also ID angle bracket MK annotations, so I can call them here. Okay, if we look at the documentation for add annotations, you'll say it takes an array of MK annotations. And a photo is that. I'm going to do another cool thing, which is I'm going to zoom the map in to show all the photos by this photographer. Okay? Now I'm doing this in an animated way, but that's not really going to like zoom out and then zoom back in like I was talking about. It's just going to zoom on over to where it is. So it's not great animation. You'd probably want to do something much better than this. Okay? So that's really all we need to make this work. One thing which you've, I'm sure, learned is that we've changed our core database model. So the Photomania that's already on my device or my simulator, I'm going to want to delete that, okay, because its database is now incompatible. It doesn't have latitude and longitude and thumbnail URL in there. So let's go ahead and run this. Hopefully our network is working. We can get stuff from Flickr. There it is. We got some stuff. And now what we'd like to have happen here is we click, and instead of a table view here, right, we'd like to see this map. Okay? So how do we do that segue? Right? We have this iPhone thing here. We've got this nice map view thing ready to go. We want to segue to it. So this segue that goes here, we want it to go down here. Really easy to do. All we have to do is make sure it all fits on screen so I can show it to you. Here we go. I'm just going to segue by control dragging from this row in the photographer's table view down to our new one. Okay, it's a push because we're in a navigation controller. And notice it took away this segue because I can only segue from this row to one place. And now I'm segueing to our map view down here. Okay, so now we have the segue. Now what about photographer's core data table view controller? It has to prepare for segue properly, right? So here's where it's prepare for segue with the photos by photographer core data table view controller. So we are going to do the same thing here with a map view controller. Okay, so here this is almost exactly the same code. It's just that I'm doing photos by photographer map view controller instead of photos by photographer core data table view controller. And we have these because we have to import. So let's go and import our photos by photographer map view controller. Okay, hopefully get rid of all our warnings. That's good. So now we have this segue. So let's try again. And hopefully our new segue will work. We got the photographers. We click. We got pins on the map. Okay, showing all those photos by that photographer. And if we click on a pin, it's actually going to show us the title and subtitle. None of these have subtitles. Let's see if we can find somebody who has subtitle. There we go. There's one. This person gets around from Scotland all the way down to somewhere off the coast of Africa there. Okay. So this is kind of cool, but we can't do our next step of our segue. We can't segue to showing the photo. And also, wouldn't it be cool if we had a little thumbnail of the photo in here so that we could kind of look around at the various photos taken by this guy until we found the one we want, and then we'll click on something over here to segue over to our showing the photo in all its grandeur. Okay? So let's do that. Let's put these accessory views in. Let's go back here to our map view controller. Make some space. All right, so here's our map view controller, what we've done so far. And now we're going to do that map view delegate method. This is our first one. This is the one that returns an MK annotation view given a certain annotation. Okay, so this is called map view for annotation. It's going to give an annotation. That's going to be one of our photos, and it's going to ask us to return a view for that annotation. I think for speed.